Welcome to this virtual reading of Kenny Hargrove's one-act play, A Dawn's Early Light. My name is Rose Courtney and I'll be hosting today. We hope you'll stay afterwards for a Q&A with the artists and two expert guests who will be discussing the themes of the play. Our guests are Adam Lesser of the Lighthouse Project at Columbia University and Chrissy Avila, co-president of the League of Women Voters Los Angeles. Kenny Hargrove, our playwright, director, and producer, will also join us as well as the cast. And I also just want to remind everyone that this reading is not a full production, but rather a chance to hear the play as a piece of writing and consider it and talk about it. So without further ado, please enjoy A Dawn's Early Light.
Dawn's Early Light, a one-act play by Kenny Hargrove. Setting: a medium-sized conservative town in Middle America. Most of the play takes place in an old, charming, small but tasteful ground floor apartment that is attached to a courtyard. The scene takes place in the kitchen. There's a door to the patio and also a door to the bedroom. There's a noose hanging above the kitchen table. It is not visible until Samantha is ready to approach it. Fade in. Indianapolis, Indiana. Interior, apartment, kitchen, night. Sam, female, 25, wears a nice dress with pearls as if she were in a fancy restaurant on a date. She dines alone at the dinner table lit with candles. She listens to the radio.
And the winner is George Herbert Walker Bush. After 8 years as vice president in a long, grueling campaign that would test the mettle of any man, he has defeated Democratic challenger Michael Dukakis. He will now become the 41st president of the United States with Dan Quayle as his vice president. The Reagan Revolution will continue!
Sam pushes aside her plate and begins to write something with a pen and paper. She carefully folds the letter, places it into an envelope, which she stands against a wine bottle.
And now we conclude our long day of non-stop Election Day coverage with a rousing rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner. Just remember that when you wake up in the morning, it will be a new day in America, one filled with possibility and hope and greatness. We have won for the Gipper. Good night, and God bless America.
She stands and walks over to the sink. She washes and dries the dishes and places them in a cupboard. There is a knock at the door. She turns toward the door. The knocking grows louder as she walks back to the table. Then the knocking stops. She blows out the candle and the room dims. She stands on a chair and then climbs onto the table. A spotlight reveals that she is now facing a noose.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
As Sam places the noose around her neck, we see the man who was knocking at the door. Carter, male, 28 years old, wearing jeans and a safari jacket, appears at the window with a duffel bag and a beautiful bouquet of flowers. Upon seeing her place the noose around her neck, he bangs the window and yells,
"No! Sam! What are you doing?"
She stares at him. He stares back. She looks away.
And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air.
She leaps off the table. However, the rope won't support her weight and she falls to the floor, unconscious.
O'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Carter bursts through the door. He rushes to her. He unties the noose and tenderly takes her in his arms.
Sam? Sam? Oh, you're still breathing. You're still breathing. You're going to be all right. I know you're going to be all right. I know it.
Sensing no response from her, he runs over to the telephone. He picks up the receiver. Sam starts to cough.
No.
You can speak. Oh, thank God. Thank God, I'm so relieved.
No.
You need help. I'm calling an ambulance.
I said no.
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 Don't you want to get checked out? I mean, maybe you damaged your neck or spine.
And what if I did?
I don't understand.
You don't have to understand. Just leave me alone.
Leave you alone after what you just tried to do? No way.
I'll be fine. Just leave me alone. Leave. I'm calling the police.
Can you even stand up?
She tries to stand but can't. He scoops her up in his arms and lovingly carries her over to the phone.
Here, if you want to call the police, the hospital, the Pope, the president, whomever, go ahead. Go on, just call. You need help.
Put me down.
He doesn't.
Put me down.
He carefully places her on the ground and sits beside her, watching her every move.
What the hell is going on here? I've spent the last 48 hours in transit traipsing half the globe to come here and surprise you. Instead, I get this.
This is not about you.
What would you have me do? What would you have done if I hadn't walked in?
I will tie a better knot and try again.
No, you will not. Look, I'm sorry. Truly sorry that I left. It was all a big mistake. I can see that now. And I can see that you're angry and upset, but I will make it up to you. I'm back. And I won't ever leave you again.
That's comforting.
Just promise me one thing. Please don't ever do anything like that. Ever again. Whatever problems there are, we can solve them together. This is a very dark night for the both of us, but when the morning comes, we'll begin again. We'll forget this trauma and move on.
I will not see another sunrise. The birds will not sing for me, and there's nothing that you can do about it.
Sam stands with difficulty and manages to stagger to the table, where she picks up the wine bottle and glass.
Wine? Oh, what's the matter? I can't be a bad host, can I? Come on, bring a glass for yourself, too. It's your favorite Pinot, very noir.
Never taking his eyes off her, he takes a glass from the cupboard. He sits. She fills both glasses.
Cheers. I've always liked that one. You have good taste. Looks like Africa was good to you. Certainly better than the cornfields of Iowa.
Yeah, well, I wasn't much good to the Dukakis campaign. I was just another body. You know that. I'm a development economist. I needed to be on the front lines of poverty in the Sudan, not the presidential election in Iowa.
So you say.
It's true and you know it. At least in your mind, if not in your heart. You, on the other hand, were in your element. An English major filled with empathy who could explain the issues plainly and honestly. That's what the campaign needed. My graphs and calculations just left people cold.
Well, look what good my explanations and empathy did. Central America is aflame because of the CIA-sponsored Iran-Contra scandal. The Cold War continues. The economy is still reeling after Black Friday, yet Bush won? Unbelievable. How did this happen? I feel like I've lost my voice and I don't know how to get it back.
You did your best. What more could you have done?
The world is going to hell in a handbasket. We should have done more.
We did what we could do. We fought the good fight. We'll do better next time.
There won't be a next time. I'm scared the world won't survive the next 4 years. Carter, it's 1988. Dukakis warned of climate change and global warming. Before the end of the millennium, we'll all be pushed to the edge of extinction, worse off than the Neanderthals. I don't want that future. Do you? I'd rather be dead, so I'm ending it now.
Don't talk like that. I respectfully disagree with your apocalyptic assessment, and you should too. You'll go mad if you don't.
Well, maybe I already have, just like my father and my aunt, my...
Stop.
You were saying? Go on.
I've just spent months helping the poorest of the poor. While they have nothing, they are full of hope. Hope for themselves, hope for their children, and hopes for their countries, as inept and corrupt as their governments may be.
They've been drugged. Hope is a lie. After 8 long years of Ronald Reagan, I can't handle 4 more years of the same thing with George Bush. It's already sucked the life out of me. This is not the world I want. I can't take it anymore. I'm tired, so tired.
Maybe we should have supported a different candidate.
You mean Gary Hart?
It's too late for him. But I imagine going door to door amid the cornfields for the Communist Party, or for Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Coalition.
That would have been fun.
Yeah.
But the result would have been no different. People are afraid of change. A return to the good old days. That was President Reagan's campaign theme, remember?
Yes. It was quite effective. Apparently it still is.
Ah, shucks. The good old days before we had all these problems with women and minority groups. The majority of the American population, we the people,
They don't call him the great communicator for nothing, but we have to look towards the future. Hope is empowering.
Empowering. I have never felt so helpless. Is that why you've come back? Are you some sort of superhero?
No, Sam. I want to be a super dad. That's why I'm back. I heard through one of the other aid workers.
What? One of the other aid workers? How would they know?
Your friend Mei Lin got word to my friend Jeet, who ran into my boss Mustafa while on layover in Nairobi. I had to come back. We can try again. Why didn't you tell me?
Why should I tell you?
Why?
Yeah, why?
Because I deserve to know. I think I deserve to know more than Mei Lin or anyone else.
Well, but now you know.
But that's not the point. You know what I mean.
I wrote you letters.
You did? I haven't heard anything from you for over 6 months. Did you get my letters?
Yes.
And?
Your unopened letters are sitting next to my unmailed letters in the bedroom. How poignant, at least they made a connection. So you see there was no need for you to come back. You can ship out now. I'm sure there's some great new economic and social disaster out there just calling out your name. Well, I can hear it in the distance. Carter, Carter, come save us. We need your supply and demand graphs, your theories of marginal utility, your explanations of comparative advantage in international trade. Surely that can feed the world.
When did you become so cynical? What happened to all that idealism that led us to Iowa in the first place?
You mean all the grand poetry and epic literature that says that ultimately things will be all right in big, bold letters? That can-do American brand of liberalism that says that free and enlightened people will make better decisions and build a better world. Well, some pig in a cornfield grazed on it and it came out as black manure surrounded by flies. Now go.
Sam manages to stand. Carter, still sitting, watches her.
You see, I'm fine now. Now go.
No. I'm here to stay. I've almost finished my doctorate. I'll get a good university job somewhere and we can try again. I told you, I won't leave you.
How can I believe you?
Carter stands and moves towards Sam.
I'm back. And I won't ever leave you again.
You promise?
Carter gets down on one knee as if he's proposing.
Yes.
You solemnly swear?
Carter takes her hand.
I solemnly swear. Do you?
She kisses him.
I have something to tell you first.
She stands and walks to the sink before turning towards him.
Okay. Anything.
Ready?
Yes.
It wasn't a miscarriage. It was an abortion.
Carter drops his glass, which shatters on the floor. He slumps onto a seat at the table. He turns away from her for the first time.
Drink up, Carter. Drink up. Or did I just offend your Catholic sensibilities? What will your mom say? Oh, and your dad. You still want me, don't you?
Carter stands and slowly staggers toward the door.
Silence is better than the lies we've been told. How about some happily ever after? I'm sorry I can't be your Mary Poppins anymore, but dark clouds have gathered above my head and a superstorm is in sight. What a beautiful spectacle it will be, especially in the ground zero of my mind. So bright, so sonorous, so colorful, so serene. Unlike anything I've ever experienced. It will be my new religion, and I can't wait. Better than bonjour tristesse and good morning heartache all rolled into one and amplified 1,000 times.
Sam sits at the table, then Carter storms back.
Why? Why, Sam? Why?
Why what?
What? Why did you kill our baby?
Don't be so dramatic. I dispute your choice of words.
That was our
I don't
child.
know why it's necessary.
It was our child, right?
Sam ignores him. She goes to the cupboard and places a loaf of bread, butter, jam, and cheese on a tray, along with a big knife.
You must be starving after your long trip. I hope it was worth it.
Answer me.
Sam sits at the table.
What happened to you? I thought we wanted the same things. We were going to build a better world together, be together. We were a new beginning.
We were. But the young girl that you fell in love with is gone. I don't know what or who has replaced her, but she no longer resides within me.
She slices the bread and the cheese and holds it out to him.
Come on now. Eat. I can't send you away on an empty stomach, can I?
Answer my question.
Eat something, please. Eat and go. Live the happy life that we dreamed of. It's not too late for you. You still have your family. I don't.
What? What do you mean? What happened?
You still have your dreams. You can love somebody else, someone who can still see the good in the world, but that won't be me.
Sam stands and toys with the knife.
Now, go.
He stands and slowly moves toward her.
Sam, put the knife down. Have a seat and talk to me. I need some answers. We have all the time in the world. Sam, put the knife down. Sam, talk to me. Help me to understand.
You can't understand. You wouldn't understand.
But I want to. Please. Please help me.
I'm tired now. So tired.
Sam puts the knife down. She sits.
Carter Demetrius, Carter Constantine, or Carter Samuel. Somehow I couldn't decide.
So the child was mine?
Yes.
That's a relief. I'd feared thought maybe you and...
No, it was our child.
Good. It was a boy.
Yeah.
I was going to have a son.
We were going to have a son. A lovely little boy.
So why? Why couldn't we have our son? Why, Sam? I thought that you liked kids. We talked about this, remember? What were you thinking? Was it me? Did you not think that I would be a good father?
No. It's not you.
Carter sits. Sam walks away and then turns towards him.
It's me. I was so happy contemplating the name of our child. I wrote you a letter about it, seeking your advice. If ever there was a moment that I wanted you, that I needed you, it was then.
So, why couldn't you mail the letter? I so wanted to hear from you.
Look, I don't know why things just fell apart, you know?
No, I don't know.
My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside let freedom ring. Carter, I didn't finish the campaign.
What? Why?
When they needed me most in the final months before the election, I just stopped.
Just stopped.
Stopped. After the Democratic convention, Dukakis had a 17-point lead over Bush. But then it happened.
It.
The specter of Willie Horton.
Who?
Willie Horton? Don't tell me that starving people in Sudanese refugee camps with no voting rights have something better to do than follow the daily antics of well-fed politicians half the world away.
Of course not, but go on.
Willie Horton was a black man imprisoned in Massachusetts for murder without the possibility of parole. He was allowed a weekend furlough under a program sponsored by Governor Dukakis. Over the weekend, he committed assault, armed robbery, and then raped a white woman and assaulted her fiancé before being caught. The Republican ad campaign about this was relentless and effective. That, combined with Dukakis' statement during the debates that he would not support the death penalty even if his own wife was raped and murdered, completely turned the tide. Dukakis plummeted in the polls. Imagine interjecting race into the election. It's 1988. I thought we were beyond that.
Maybe voters aren't ready for such a principled man. Maybe they wanted a John Wayne figure to impose law and order as he sees fit.
Another Reagan? No thanks.
I didn't want any of this. I didn't know any of this. I find this all very disheartening and unsettling, very unsettling.
So did I. It changed me. It really did. Suddenly, the world looked very different to me. I mean, it was different from when I was free and single and dating a cute grad student in economics who wanted to save the world. But suddenly, I was going to be a mom, responsible for the well-being of an infant. I wondered what kind of world he would live in and whether it would be an accepting, loving, emotionally nourishing place for him. I hadn't thought such things before. From that moment, every slammed door, every angry look, every slur, aspersion, or shouting match hit me like a punch to the stomach. I couldn't stand it. I started to hate the voters. I didn't want to meet any of them, even the nice ones. I started to hear that phrase, people get the government that they deserve, over and over in my head. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. Let freedom ring. Let freedom. Or not. At that point, I was finished. I quit. I flew home. Home. My mom had just died. There was no home to fly back to.
No. Oh, I'm so sorry that I couldn't be here for you. Why wouldn't you tell me?
It was the worst day of my life, and I'm reliving it each and every day. I just want to talk to her one more time. Just be lovingly embraced one more time.
I'm so sorry about your mom. She was such a nice lady. She always made me feel welcome.
She loved you. Sometimes I felt she loved you more than I did. She couldn't wait for us to bring her grandchildren.
Carter moves to embrace Sam, but she backs off.
Don't. So I returned to this lonely semblance of a life, this apartment. I contemplated, I processed, or so I tried, but the light became darker and darker by the day. I didn't know what to do. My soul sank to a depth from which it couldn't recover. I've never been so frightened. I reached for you. I screamed your name. But you weren't there. Here I was in the midst of the biggest crisis of my entire life, in large part because of you. And you weren't there. What else could I do? There was this growing life swimming inside of me, growing inside of me. I felt that he kept asking, Mommy, Mommy, should I be born? Mommy, Mommy, what should we do? I didn't know how to respond, but that voice was incessant, screaming inside of me. I didn't know what to do. My world kept growing darker and darker.
Did you seek help?
Help? No one could help me. I had to decide whether the child would be better off alive or never born. It was too awesome a responsibility, especially without the benefit of a crystal ball. His future could be bleak, very bleak. I had to decide. I waited. And finally, I got up the nerve summoning my remaining courage and called the clinic. And then it was done, problem solved, just like that.
Just like that.
I've been sitting here ever since, just sitting. You're just me. Just existing, just waiting. I'm stuck and I'm tired.
I didn't know that. I'm sorry I wasn't here. But you need help.
I need help. You think so?
You've had a nasty fall. Come with me. Let's go see the doctor, just in case, as a precaution.
What kind of doctor are you talking about?
Let's just make sure you're okay. Please.
He cautiously approaches her. Suddenly, Sam charges him and pushes him into a chair, stunned.
What happened? I thought you'd only be gone for 3 months. 3 months, that was already an eternity.
I explained all that in my letters. The project was extended. We were making such good progress that they decided to fund us for another 3 months. Now we'll get to present a report to the United Nations next month.
Oh, well, how exciting for you. But do you really think that'll make any difference or simply help to build your resume?
Hopefully both. Funny, there were definitely days when I thought about quitting and coming back just to be with you. But I was afraid that you'd be disappointed in me. So I soldiered on, trying to be a good warrior for social change. I guess I should have followed my gut and ran back to you. Pride be damned.
Well, you're here now. Now that you've enjoyed a hero's triumphant welcome home, what's next for you?
You?
No, I won't be here. You can join me if you want. Our deaths could be very poetic, romantic like Romeo and Juliet. But maybe Carter and Samantha doesn't have quite the same ring to it. What do you think?
We're here now together. Let's stay together. Alive. The next world can wait. It's been so long. I've craved you for so many African nights. I'd look up at the shining stars and illuminating the endless skies, and I'd imagine. I'd see you going door to door on the campaign trail, shaking hands with that warm smile, that twinkle in your eyes, and the most succinct summary of Dukakis' plan for a better world that I'd ever heard. And with that thought, I'd suddenly find myself at peace. Flies, the dirt, the disease, they no longer mattered because I knew that I too was helping to build a better world. I was working on my project in the Sudan, my UN project in the Sudan, and you were working on the presidential campaign trail in Iowa. Together, we would reshape the world for the better. So I saw you in everything that I did in the Sudan. You were always in my thoughts. Was I in yours, Sam? Was I?
You're starting to bore me. Do you know how many millions of people have died from AIDS? It's a global pandemic, yet outside of the gay community, no one cares. It's bizarre. If the cats and dogs of the people running this planet caught HIV and died, there would be a cure within months. The whole planet would be on lockdown.
Impossible. I mean, that would never happen. I know about AIDS. Okay? I saw people die from it almost every day in the camps. I felt helpless, which is crazy because we were there to improve their economy, which would strengthen their fragile healthcare system so that more people would live. But when you see someone die just 3 feet in front of your face, all of our efforts suddenly feel like mumbo jumbo. An inelegant expression for impotism. Impotence.
Mumbo jumbo. The gods have spoken. Or, as the righteous so smugly say, it's divine retribution. Amen.
She walks away.
You know, I did do one thing since the abortion.
What's that?
I wrote a short story.
You did?
Yeah, I did, and it was really good. It was part therapy and part my feeble attempt at a fresh start.
Well, that's great. What's it about?
Us. What else? Guess how it ended?
How?
Happily ever after, with me, you, some kids, and a dog, all living a beautiful life in a kind and gentle world full of possibilities.
That's great. What were their names?
What?
The kids in the story. What did you name them?
Thierry and Maëlle.
Nice. Very French. And the dog?
The dog. Oh, I didn't name him. Maybe Jacques.
Jacques. It's a good dog name. Maybe he wears a chic little chapeau. Can I read the story?
No. Every publication that I submitted it to rejected it. Happily ever after isn't very popular these days. But then again, maybe it's just me that's being rejected. I took it as a sign, so I destroyed it.
First our child, next your art, and now...
Yes. And no. It's logical, isn't it? Carrying things to their necessary end.
Necessary? Nothing is necessary. I mean, you're bright, you're strong, you're good. Surely you can do more submissions or write something that might better suit their sensibilities. You know, I have a few editor friends in New York. Maybe they can help.
No, it's finished. I won't write again.
What was it called?
Be Still the Night.
I like it. It's nice and literary sounding, like Fitzgerald.
More like Zelda than F. Scott. And we know what happened to her.
I see. But you're a good writer at the beginning of a promising career. You can't stop now.
I already did.
Don't just give up. That's not the Samantha that I know and fell for.
He gets up and digs into his duffel bag. He pulls out a pen and a pad of paper.
Here. Write.
Write what?
I don't know. Anything that engages you creatively. If need be, write about death, but keep writing. I know you have a lot to say to the world and that people will want to read it. I always thought I understood you, but I was wrong. So wrong.
Your theories of labor economics and marginal utility best sum me up.
Marginal utility?
Yeah. In your absence, I started reading your economics tomes. Wage economics, marginal utility, trying to put a price on happiness. Fascinating stuff. You want to live forever and accrue as much marginal utility as you can from all your endeavors and adventures. Me, I am 25 years old and I don't feel any happier today than I did a year ago. I am arguably less happy, much less happy, maybe somewhere south of morose. My marginal utility curve is in free fall, and my total utility has spiraled against itself. According to your economist gurus, I need to quit while I'm ahead.
Sam, you're mixing up a few very distinct theories.
You know what I mean. The conclusion is the same. It's dark, it's bleak, and I won't have it. Worst of all, there's no variable to express love. There's no room for affection or kindness in your graphs. No wonder everybody in the globalist capitalist economy is miserable, delusional, or both. How can you have a theory of happiness without an equation for love? How?
I don't know, Sam. They're just a bunch of ideas dreamed up by a bunch of eggheads as a way to explain what we observe. They weren't concerned with love, only money, only efficiency. You as an individual are free to follow any path you choose and add any variables that you want to be happy. Only you can create your story, and there are lots of variables. And only you can control. Look, Sam, supply and demand curves can't compare to great literature.
Yeah, no, it's not Tolstoy, but they were Nobel Prize-winning eggheads, so they know more about the pursuit of happiness than even you. Who am I to fight it? And now Bush comes along with his talk of trickle-down and voodoo economics. Do you really think that that gibberish can really reduce income inequality? Do you?
We'll have to wait and see. The dismal science is an art, an aspiration. We won't know the outcome if we don't try. Something must be done.
I'd always considered your honesty to be one of your best qualities, but right now it's killing me. Poor choice of words. Look, I know these final moments should be tender and sweet, but I just can't bring myself to be happy. I'm sorry, I just can't. Please forgive me.
You need a change of scene. Maybe we should travel to rejuvenate your soul and spark some positivity. I know. Let's go visit your friend in Nicaragua. We had a good time there last year, remember?
I don't want to travel anymore. The world is a mess wherever you go. I'd prefer to keep my illusions that things really could be better somewhere else.
What about Paris? You've always wanted to go there. I may have an opportunity to work on a project for the OECD or UNESCO. You could come along. Practice your French. Eat good food, experience amazing art, drink fine wines, and enjoy a joie de vivre. Wouldn't that be fun? What do you say?
You do realize that the United States is no longer funding UNESCO thanks to President Reagan.
Yes, I remember all of his concerns about evil international organizations, which we created, that supposedly don't serve American interests. But I may still have an opportunity there based on my research team. What do you say? Maybe you could get back into acting and become the next Gene Seberg. I don't know, like in those Godard films. What do you say? Sam, what do you say?
I say no. I'd be miserable. You'd be doing good work to make the world a better place, and I'd be just a pet, an amusement, a wifey type, better seen but not heard. I'd be expected to be pretty and witty and gay entertainment, nothing more. Here, wifey, come on, wifey, let's play. Good girl. What? You don't want to play what I want to play when I want to play it? Bad girl, very bad.
I'd never treat you like that.
No, but the other men would. And there could be hell to pay for both of us if I don't play along. You won't get a good job if your girlfriend is perceived to be unsuitable.
Unsuitable?
Crazy. Depressed. Less than jolly good fun. It would reflect badly on you and your prospects.
You're talking sense and nonsense at the same time, but you're not crazy. None of those things would matter to me anyway.
Yeah, you're ambitious, so yes, they would. Besides, I don't like scarves. What's a French woman without a scarf?
I don't understand. You've always dreamed of visiting France. You've told me so many times.
That was then, this is now. My answer remains no.
Life is not a fairy tale, Sam. If we want happily ever after, we have to build it. Day by day, moment by moment. There are no dead people on any marginal utility curve. Joy, or the promise of joy, is only for the living. Just because you're fed up with people doesn't mean that you shouldn't give up on life. Why don't you work on behalf of the environment? Do some volunteer work with the Sierra Club or Greenpeace or even that new Green Party. You'd like that, saving the planet?
There are 5 billion people in the world and billions more to come. Do you think that any one of them, ourselves included, can really truly do anything useful for the environment? We change things, we alter things to suit our needs. That's what mankind does, and we do it incredibly well. When a beaver builds a dam or a bird builds a nest, that's a beautiful thing, an all natural thing. And when they move on, their dwelling naturally fades away. By contrast, when we build something, we change things, we destroy things, often permanently. We're never satisfied until we've ruined something for the sake of humanity, for the sake of progress. And none of it is done for the benefit of the earth or the other animals with whom we share the planet. The toxic water, nuclear waste, plastic, and all of the forests destroyed for a luxury property scheme? Or so grazing cattle can become cheeseburgers for a place where billions and billions have been served? No, thanks. The only good that mankind can do for the environment is to turn off every machine and then have everyone take a flying leap into the sea, if that's not too polluting.
I'm starving. I know. Let's go to Otto's Cafe.
What, now?
Yes, now. It's the only 24-hour diner in the valley. We can watch the sunrise as I enjoy my ritual steak and eggs, and you can enjoy that goopy French toast that you like. Come on, let's go.
But I'm not hungry.
No excuse. Come on. Besides, you're all dressed up anyway. Did I tell you how good you look? You look great. Quite a sight for these sore jet-lagged eyes.
Quite a sight.
A nice sight. A very nice sight.
I don't want to be seen.
But you'll be the belle of the ball, and the place will probably be empty. You need to get out of this dreary apartment, like, away from all these thoughts about death. If this is the last time that you want to see me, I want it to be fun. Come on, Sam. Come on.
No. You go. You need a good meal. Carter, just go. Go.
No. Not without you. What's the matter? What are you afraid of? Terrified that you might have a good time and forget about all this foolishness? Afraid that you might come to your senses? God, what's your rush to die? Sam, what's a few hours delay? You could kill yourself anytime.
I don't want to go. You're hungry. You go. Go, Carter, and take your bag with you.
No.
He sits down.
I'm not going anywhere without you.
Are you tired?
Exhausted. Truly exhausted. I haven't been able to sleep for the last 6 months. I've tried pills, wine, getting myself really fatigued. Nothing worked. All I heard all night was crying. Kids, mothers, even grown men, all wailing away all night, every night. It was an unending choir of the almost dead, and there was little that I could do about it. The only thing worse than that dreaded cacophony was the occasional silence, when a voice went silent for good. Unlike you, they didn't have a choice. Unlike you, it wasn't an intellectual decision. Certainly not a moral or a romanticized one. I'm sure they'd give anything, everything, to luxuriate in your first world problems. I wish you could see things from their perspective. I truly do. But no one cares about the third world. You're alive. Stay that way for as long as you can.
We are the world. We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day, so let's start giving. Here. Let me make you some coffee. Your poor body must be so jet-lagged. Why don't you take a shower and then rest your weary head on the sofa?
I'll skip the shower for now. I want to keep an eye on you. Maybe a little rest, though. Do you still have my lucky shirt?
Your lucky shirt?
Yeah, I thought that you would wear it sometimes.
So that good things would happen to me?
Yes,
I guess I didn't wear it.
I gathered that. Where is it?
Somewhere in the bedroom? Have a look.
He walks into the bedroom, leaving Sam alone in the kitchen. She starts searching through cabinets quietly.
What happened here? It's a mess. You were such a clean freak, fastidious to the core.
Well, once the maid decided that she was going to kill herself, suddenly cleanliness seemed unnecessary.
Where are all of my clothes?
I shipped them to your parents last month.
Last month? How long have you been planning this?
For a while.
Well, I'm just happy that you failed.
Yeah, that was plan A. This is plan B.
She places a couple of sleeping pills and a cup of coffee for Carter. She then swallows the remaining bottle of pills and downs it with water.
Hey, you took down the portrait of you and your cousin?
Yeah.
Why? I thought she was your favorite. It was such a beautiful painting, too.
Yeah, she is and it is, but I had to.
You had to?
It unnerves me. I can't bear to look at her now. She's been institutionalized.
What?
Institutionalized? You know, like my brother, the men in white coats took her away.
Your cousin? I am sorry. I didn't know. You've been through a lot.
I don't want to talk about it.
Understood. Found it.
Carter rushes back into the room carrying the colorful shirt. He throws it to her.
Hey.
What should I put this on now? Then we can watch the magic unfold as my life is transformed.
She gives him the cup of coffee, which he begins to drink. She puts on the shirt and makes a show of it.
Oh, well.
She twirls expectantly.
Presto!
Jumps into the air. She takes a bow when she lands.
Ta-da! My life is unchanged. How about a rabbit's foot? Could that do the trick?
Stop joking. It was a well-meaning gesture.
Here, you wear it.
She takes off the shirt and throws it to Carter.
You've always wanted to know why I stopped acting.
Yeah. Yes, you were good in those Noel Coward and Neil Simon plays. I always enjoyed them.
It's hard to play make-believe when your own sanity is at stake. Maybe I'd be good, really good in Night Mother, or that movie, The One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I could win an Oscar for that.
Stop joking.
Oh, I'm serious.
Your sanity isn't really at stake, is it?
All I know is 50-50.
Oh, no, not that again. No, Sam, no.
Yes, it's a fact. And now after my father, my brother, and my cousin, I'd say in my case, it's probably more like 100%. And I sense that it's already starting to happen.
50-50 also means that there's a 50% chance that you won't inherit the disease if a parent had it. That's a cause for concern, but not a reason to kill yourself. You can't know the future.
I don't have to. My aunt decided to sterilize herself in 1970, fearing for the mental health of future generations. I'm just going one step further. I'm not just saving future generations from the disease. I'm also calling it quits in this crazy world while I still can and on my own terms. The present is miserable enough. Why wait for the future? People can't change.
Yes, there are more people on Earth now than ever before, but that means there are more scientists, engineers, and doctors alive now than at all previous points of history combined. So the pace of change and progress accelerates faster and faster. Maybe in 2 years or 10 years, they'll find a cure for you. Did you think about that? If you check out now, you'll never know what beautiful things could have been. You'll abandon all hope. Don't go, Sam.
We can't even cure the common cold. I'm free to do as I please, and I already did. I don't need to justify or explain my actions to anyone, not even you.
She grabs his duffel bag and places it by the front door. She looks outside toward the sky.
Dawn's early light. A good life beckons for you out there. Oh, look.
She walks outside. She returns with the bouquet of flowers. She walks back inside and smells the flowers. She smiles.
Thank you for the flowers. They are beautiful, and they shall be my last.
She places them on the table. Then she places one of the flowers in her hair.
And now I will finally enjoy a long rest. Go. Go, I have things to do. Adieu.
She looks at him and picks up the envelope containing the letter that she wrote at the beginning of the play.
Here. Read this.
Sam hands him the envelope and guides him to sit down. He does and begins to read. She backs away and moves to her bedroom. She locks the door behind her. Carter reads the letter. He looks alarmed. He looks for her, but she's not there. He sees the empty pill bottle. Carter runs to the bedroom door in a panic. He tries in vain to open it. He bangs and yells.
Sam! Sam! Samantha!
The lights rise to reveal the hopeful light of dawn. Birds sing to welcome a new day.
Damn it, Sam! I'm coming in there! You better open that door!
He charges the door with all of his might. It doesn't open, but he hurts his shoulder and screams in pain.
Ah!
It hurts so much that he can barely speak. He falls back onto a chair, still moaning in pain. He yells meekly as his energy fades.
Sam! Sam!
He passes out outside her bedroom door and collapses. The bedroom door opens. Sam emerges, drugged and groggy. When she sees Carter in a heap on the floor, she screams.
Carter! Carter! Carter, are you all right? I heard you scream and it woke me up. It called me back. You called me back. Maybe not for long because I took a lot of pills. A lot of pills.
She shakes him.
Carter!
She envelops Carter's sleeping body in her arms. Carter wakes up.
Ow! My shoulder!
He realizes that she is with him.
Sam! You're still alive. Oh, thank God, Sam. Sam, I love
you.
Sam gives Carter a long kiss. Carter then cries out in pain.
Ow!
You're hurt. I'll call an ambulance.
No, I want to stay with you.
You're with me now. That's all that matters.
Sam goes to the telephone and dials.
Hello? We need an ambulance. It may be a broken shoulder. He's in pain, great pain. Good. The door will be open. His name is Carter. Take care of him. He means the world to me. They'll be here in 10 minutes. You will be all right.
What about you? You need the hospital too. Maybe they can pump your stomach.
I'll be fine, and you'll be fine. Look, for some of us, life is a marathon, and for others, it's a sprint. And my race is done. I've had all that I can handle.
We begin to hear the approaching ambulance in the distance.
What will you do, Sam? You don't have much time. Come with me. They can save us both.
I love you. Be happy, Carter. Be happy.
Can you reach inside my bag, please?
Sam staggers to Carter's duffel bag. She looks through it.
Can you bring me the sack?
She staggers back and places it on the table.
Open it.
She does.
What's this?
Something special that I brought just for us. Dates and sweets from the Sudan.
I'm not hungry.
That's not the point. Can you bring some milk from the refrigerator?
Milk. Ever the growing boy.
Sam staggers to the refrigerator and brings the milk and a glass.
Now you feed me dates and sweets and spray me with milk from your mouth, and then I'll do the same for you.
A food fight now? And I thought I was nuts. Why?
It's part of a traditional Sudanese wedding ceremony. We're supposed to do it 7 times, but we don't have time for that.
What? You want to marry me after all this? You can't be serious. I may be killing myself, but I'm not crazy. I'm not that crazy.
I do, and I am.
But you'll be a widower in a few minutes.
Doesn't matter. Will you marry me?
Sam is silent for a long moment. Then she pours her milk into the glass and spews it all over Carter, who laughs. She gives him a sweet and a date.
The final moments of my life, and I'm marrying a nutcase. Unbelievable.
She gives him the glass and kneels next to him to be sprayed by the milk, sensing that he is unable to reach for the dates. She takes one, touches it to him, and places it in her mouth. She does the same with a sweet.
Now what? Happily ever after?
Yes.
No. I'm going to visit the baby now. Someday you'll come along too. Then we will have our happily ever after. Just like in my story. Just don't come too soon.
She turns toward the window and the morning sun.
Goodbye, husband.
She kisses him.
Goodbye.
She crawls into the bedroom as Carter watches aghast. The bedroom door closes. We hear the door lock. Carter passes out again. 2 paramedics arrive and examine the sleeping Carter.
Just the guy?
I think so.
I'm still knackered after that election party last night. It was one hell of a We Love George Bush blowout. You know, after knocking on doors and talking to voters for the guy, I got my just rewards. Tons of juicy ribs, lots of beef and chicken, all the cold brew that I could handle. You know, they even had apple pie.
Apple pie, man. God bless America.
You should have been there.
Hey, don't rub it in.
Serves you right for dating that skinny liberal who won't wear a dress. I bet they were all crying in their organic tofu and brown rice last night.
Yeah, the Dukakis campaign celebration was a bit quiet. Honestly, I've had more fun at funerals. In 4 more years when he's reelected, I'll join you. Deal?
Deal. I can see some swelling.
No, looks like he's breathing normally.
Yeah, his vitals are fine. Looks like his shoulder might be dislocated.
Or worse. God, I hope it's not shattered. Bone fragments are a nightmare.
Well, that does look nasty.
He's pampered college kids, not a care in the world. Probably got drunk and foolish playing beer pong.
I wish I could sleep so blissfully in the middle of the workday.
Oh, God, me too.
Fate is cruel. All right, you ready? I want to get an early lunch. My stomach's growling, so let's get this guy off our hands as quickly as possible. You ready?
1, 2, 3.
They lift him onto the gurney.
Pretty heavy.
And probably never missed a meal in his life.
They carry him out of the front door. After the room has cleared, we begin to hear the beautiful morning songs of the birds again. Suddenly, the telephone rings. We hear a message being left on the telephone answering machine.
Hi, Samantha. This is your psychiatrist, Dr. Jones, calling. I just wanted to apologize for the delay in getting the test results to you. I hope it didn't cause you any anxieties. I just wanted to let you know that you're fine. Despite your family history, there's nothing to worry about. All the results were negative. So please feel free to call me to schedule an appointment to explain the results. Have a nice day.
What did she say? Hello? Hello? Help! Please help me! Help! Is anyone there? Anyone?
Fade to black. Interior Hospital, day. Sam lies alone on a hospital bed watching George Herbert Walker Bush speak on the room's television. She is wearing a beautiful scarf.
Some see leadership as high drama and the sound of trumpets calling. And sometimes it is that. But I see history as a book with many pages, and each day we fill a page with acts of hopefulness and meaning. The new breeze blows, the page turns, the story unfolds. And so today a chapter begins. A small and stately story of unity, diversity, and generosity, shared and written together. Thank you.
She perks up as Carter walks in. His shoulder is in a cast. He wears a backpack and holds a bouquet of flowers in his free hand. He also wears nice slacks, a dressy shirt, and a blazer.
God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
He kisses her and gives her the flowers. She flashes a radiant smile and turns off the TV with the remote.
Hello, husband.
Hello, wife. How are you feeling?
Suddenly much better. And you?
Finally sleeping like a baby. It's wonderful. How was President Bush's speech?
Not a bad start.
Good. Keep hope alive, as Jessie Jackson would say.
Carter opens the window.
Well,
what?
you know what? Tell me. I'm dying to know. Sorry. Eager to know.
That's better. It's a boy.
Let me see.
Carter takes a puppy from inside his backpack and places it on the bed. The dog licks Sam's face. She beams with excitement.
Say hello to Jacques.
Sam picks up the dog, playfully holds it in the air.
Hello, Jacques. Come here, my darlings.
Carter sits next to Sam and holds her hand.
I have an idea.
Oh. Do tell.
Don't look so worried. It's a good idea. Let's move to Washington.
Wait. Washington, D.C.? Really?
Yes. There'll be another election in less than 4 years, and I want to be a part of it. And you can get that good job where you want, working for the World Bank or the IMF or a think tank.
So that we can save the world?
Yes, we will save the world with Jacques, Maël, and Thierry.
Maël and Thierry?
Well, not yet, but soon.
Oh, be still the night.
Yes, I'm going to write that novel.
Good. So we have a lot of work to do.
And a lot to look forward to.
Very good. But this will be a marathon, not a sprint.
I know. Carter.
Yes.
Thank you
For what?
for saving me.
No. Thank you. You saved me.
I think we saved each other.
They kiss as Jacques looks on. We hear the Star-Spangled Banner sung from somewhere outside of the window as Sam and Carter excitedly discuss plans for the move to Washington.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight all the ramparts we'd watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Fade out. End of play.
Thank you so much for joining us for this discussion of the themes in the performance that we just saw of Dawn's Early Light. We have Adam Lesser with us from the Lighthouse Project and Chrissy Avila from the League of Women Voters Los Angeles, as well as Kenny Hargrove, the playwright, and the performers. And I want to start with Jeannie Michaela, who played Sam, because I know, Jeannie, you've got to go in a few minutes. But before you leave, I just wanted to ask you what your general impression of the play was, and also more specifically, do you feel that the play resonates with this moment that we're living in as you explored it? Were there connections for you between the moment in the play and the moment that we're living right now?
Yes. I think that is the simple answer. Yes, absolutely. I think very much the fraught times that Sam was very much feeling in 1988 are, well, I think everyone feels like they're fraught times today. I think perhaps that's the only difference, is that she was maybe a little bit prescient in 88. And I think we're all in the same boat now, no matter where you are.
I would agree. Not from my personal experience. I'm experiencing that. Adam, in your practice, and as a mental health professional, have you noticed a shift in mental emotional health? And I guess I wonder also, what's your feeling about what we can do if we encounter a friend or a loved one who seems to have entered a dangerous zone mentally or emotionally. I feel like people are under huge pressure now, and I imagine that there's going to be a higher level of pressure with the results of this election. So I'm curious to know your point of view about it.
Sure. Any added stress to an individual who might be at risk for mental health issues has the potential for causing, these kinds of symptoms, of reactions, whether that's the pending election or what we're going through with COVID. We've seen, 1,000 times fold increase in text to the suicide crisis text line since COVID began. I also, want to really first say that if you are struggling with issues, thinking about suicide or just any kind of depression, there are places to get help. You can call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which is 800-243-8255. You can call the Trevor Project, which is a specific hotline for lesbian, gay, bisexual questioning individuals. That number is 866-488-7386. So if any of the material in the play triggered you, please call and seek some help. But there is help out there. And the good news is that most people with mental illness, most people who attempt suicide survive and don't die by suicide. Most people who attempt suicide attempt once and then get some help. It seems perhaps that's what the main character ended up going through after that attempt. So kudos to her for seeking some help.
How did you think Carter did in responding to her pleas for help? I mean, her pleas weren't direct. She actually was resisting his help. But I mean, the language she was using, like, I'm scared that I won't survive the next 4 years, and I've never felt so helpless. It's like incredibly strong language. So if we're with someone and they're using that kind of language, what would you, in terms of Carter's behavior, what did you think he did that was effective in helping her?
Carter did some things really well and some things not so well. What he did that was really good was that he didn't judge her or placate her. He didn't tell her everything's going to be okay. He didn't panic, and he kept trying to get her to accept help. The things that he could have done better is that he really should have pushed her harder to call 911 and call it for her if she wouldn't. And then there was one thing that he said that was a red flag for me, is when he said, "I'm just happy that you failed." And what that is that's a challenge to try again, because nobody likes to fail at things. And so we actually now don't say successful suicide attempt because of the implications that has. We don't want people to be successful at that type of thing. So a few things that he did real well, and a couple places where he could have done some different things.
Thank you so much. It's really good information, and I appreciate it. Appreciate your being here too.
Thanks. I'm happy to be invited.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I have a question for Chrissy. It's nice to meet you. Thanks for being here.
Nice to be here.
I was looking at the League of Women Voters website, and I saw the mission statement is like the best mission statement I've ever heard, because it's 4 words. It's empowering voters, defending democracy. I thought, like, that's a mission statement, and I wonder how do you interpret that? How do you articulate that? And what can you tell? That's the first part of my question, but I also wonder, what can you tell people who still believe, because they're out there, that their vote does not matter?
Right. Well, the first part of that, so the League of Women Voters has been around for 100 years. We established ourselves when women fought for and won the right to vote, and that was in 1920. Our mission is really to get people civically engaged in politics. I mean, we're a political organization, and we have 2 sides of that. One is voter registration, educating voters, candidate forums, things like that. We have another side that's more focused on advocacy. democracy. So our whole mission is really to get people involved and engaged. And it's interesting if you think about when Dukakis ran in the 80s, that cycle was just beginning as far as the race baiting and the Willie Horton ads, those types of things, moving into a smaller government. Those whole ideas and concepts were just beginning. And now we're coming into a whole new era. And it's very exciting. I think if you see all the protests and everything that's been going on, people are excited about doing things different and not wanting to have that smaller government. That whole focus has shifted, which has been really, really nice. And you can see it. And unfortunately, sometimes things have to go south, right, to really realize that things need to change. And there are so many more people voting now. And I think that's the other thing about voting. When you're focusing on populations, when the government, the politicians are focusing on issues for one set of people, older white voters, as they have been for many years, you start seeing people of color and youth not voting, because their issues aren't being addressed. And so now we're coming into a whole new era where a lot of those issues are being addressed. And there's so many more people that are out there voting. So it's very important right now, more than it ever has been.
And believe, I mean, I agree in the sense that I felt so hopeful when I've seen the protests and the demographic of the protests being, first of all, such a spectrum of Americans, and also how they seem really driven by young Americans.
Yeah.
Really, motored by the youth, and it's hopeful in that sense. But I know, I believe that there are people who still feel like, well, I live in New York, so like if I don't show up to vote, whatever, it's not going to make or break this election. So, I mean, can you speak to just the general sense of what voting means in the broader sense? I mean, I know this seems elementary in some senses, but I think this thing of turning out the vote is more passionate than I've ever seen it in the public discussion. And I assume there's a good reason for that.
Yeah, I think that things got so bad. I think a lot of people woke up, in 2016 with the election. And by the way, the League is a nonpartisan organization. We do not favor, either party or promote either party, but it just galvanized a lot of youth and a lot of people of color to participate. So it's interesting how some things, things that happen in this country, it shifts the dynamic and the perspective. But I think it is, it's definitely challenging, when you try to get someone to vote, they feel like I'm just one vote, it doesn't matter. But it really is important to vote. I mean, think about the fact that you're in this country and we're a democracy. I mean, that's the bare minimum. Voting, and it's almost your obligation. It's not that, is it going to affect? Yeah, one vote's not going to affect something one way or another, but it's your obligation to participate in this country and in the direction we're going. And you need to step up and at least understand the issues, and things that are going on, and make an educated, vote based on, research. It's just kind of the bare minimum.
Thank you. I love that as a note. I think that's like the strongest note ever to thank you on, because I really appreciate your being here. And
sure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Kenny, I have a question for you as the person who created this amazing piece of work. Carter urges Sam to kind of try to overcome her despair by writing and by exercising her creativity. And I'm curious to know what motivated you to write this play, and if your motivation to write in general tends to come from your desire to see a better world, or to sort of be the change you want to see through your writing. Is that something you relate to?
Very much so. This particular play, back in the summer of 2016, I was entering a writing competition, and they said, for short plays, and they said, you have to have an election theme. At that point, there were many candidates. We had no idea who was going to win. So I just wrote like an 11-page piece about elections. and it had the suicide just as a plot device. I hadn't researched like why she might be doing it aside from just being disillusioned. There's a play by a woman named Sarah Kane called 448 Psychosis that I saw in Edinburgh, and I just loved it. And unfortunately, it was about suicide, and she actually did kill herself months later. And then there was the film written by David Hare, one of my favorite playwrights, called Plenty, and it's about this is like maybe 15 years ago, about some young people who've been working behind enemy lines in World War II, and then the war ended, and they were expecting this bold, beautiful new world, and the world kind of tried to go back as much as possible to the way it was, and they kind of felt lost and disillusioned, didn't know what to do with themselves. I really liked that idea, and I really liked that other place. I wanted to come up with something that kind of incorporated those two ideas. So I kind of had a disillusioned campaign worker who just decided, given the results of the election, she'd had enough. And then that was back in 2016. Actually, Jeannie was in the initial reading back then. And it's kind of just grown in fits and starts since then, through some readings and, of course, reacting to events actually happening in the real world. For example, I had resisted putting in the bit about Willie Horton, wondering whether that really advanced the story. But then Charlottesville happened, and it's like, I'm a Black playwright. I have to say something. And then, of course, since we had a public reading in January of like a 40-page draft. And since then, of course, we've had COVID, so I had to throw in something about pandemic. So I threw in AIDS and came back to more issues related to the environment. So the play has gotten even longer since then, just reacting to events actually happening in the world. But in general, yes, I do want to try to be part of the change that, is happening in the world.
I feel like your desire to include everything ended up creating a real balance, because you ended up creating this character who is overwhelmed. Like all the themes you felt obligated to include ended up overwhelming your character in a way that actually provided the perfect plot device. On a structural level, I'm impressed. I guess I really think it's a beautiful play. So
well, thank you. It was a real challenge, especially for Jamie's part, playing Carter, because Sam was easy to write just because I just got on my soapbox and went through everything I thought was maybe bad about the world. And I was just like, okay, well, if I'm in the room facing a woman like this, what do I say? What do I do? Yeah, so his role is much harder to write.
I'd love to know, Jamie, I'm curious if you were there to ask you what it felt like to be in that position, to be working on a character who has to relate to a loved one who is having suicidal feelings. Are you there? I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, hi. Hi. Do you want to talk a little about what that was like working on that?
Yeah, I can talk a little about it.
Or really your impressions of the play in general too. I'm curious about.
Well, Kenny's writing is just fantastic. He's crafted in a very short amount of time, as far as the amount of script, two characters that have so much rich history that you can just, it feeds into them and into the moment. As far as delving into the relationship with Jeannie's character, with Sam, it's tough because you don't want to play it so far that it's you're like, you're playing it to where you can't really see the distress that's going on with Sam. You don't want to make it all about you, but at the same time, you don't want to play into the distress that Sam has. And as Adam pointed out, there are things that Carter does well, and there are things that Carter, bottoms out at. But as the actor playing him, you don't want to judge any of that. You don't want to go into the script knowing that this is where he's great and this is where he fails, and play any of that up. And so it's very difficult to, as somebody who's dealt with things like this in his life with other people to not overplay it and yet not underplay it. And I think I'm still trying to figure that balancing act out, to be honest with you. But playing off of Jeannie is just so fun. She gives so much as an actress that even through the camera lens, it's like, half the time I'm sitting there just listening to her, and then I've got to say something.
You were lovely together. You had a nice give and take and a nice chemistry. It was really, really beautiful to watch. Kenny, I'm wondering, do you have questions as a playwright that you're eager to ask this captive audience? Because we're all fresh off hearing the play. Is there anything that would help you continue the development of the play?
It's still growing, I guess, as events unfold in the real world. It's great to hear from Adam, just like what was done that was done well, and what could have been done better. It's just Jamie's role as Carter was just it still is such a challenge, because her basically the whole time she wants to get him out of there so she can get on with her business, and just trying to get him to stay in the room, stay in there, don't give up, trying to come up with things that seem realistic that he could try. I mean, there's that point where she gives that long environmental lecture and says we should all just take a flying leap into the sea, and he just like he's got to come up with something. It's like, let's go have dinner at Otto's, let's go do something. It's like, get out of here, do something. It's a real challenge to keep them kind of equal and kind of keep him at her level. But Jamie does such a great job, and he's only been on the play since January, so it's been a real pleasure to watch them grow together into these roles.
As I hear this discussion, I'm thinking about what it's making me realize about the play that I really love is that I feel like the play is kind of this call to respond to kind of responsibility that we're maybe not always in touch with, a kind of responsibility to each other, a responsibility to vote, a responsibility to the country as citizens. I feel like, one of the questions I had for Adam that I was almost reluctant to ask, because it's not directly related to suicide. It's not even directly related to our current sort of election moment. But I guess I'm compelled by the analogy that Sam uses when she compares herself to an economic model, and she says, how can you? She says she talks about her own marginal utility, and she throws, she talks about like, how can you have a theory of happiness without an equation for love? She makes herself into sort of an economic entity. And it made me think, God, as a country, have we become so fixated on economic success and on certain kinds of achievement and that are based on economic success that we've lost touch with what actually makes our lives worth living, our connections to each other, our connections to what we hold dear. I mean, as a therapist, as a mental health professional, is that something that you encounter? Do you feel like people are sort of chasing things that are not are seeing themselves through a lens that is not going to help them find wholeness? I think you're muted, Adam.
You're muted, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. I muted you so you wouldn't hear the cats playing around. It's interesting. That's sort of a level of insight that a lot of people don't have the luxury of getting to. Like the play sort of focused on, these are first world problems. And so, the issues that people deal with in therapy also have a lot to do with their situations. I'm a social worker, by education. And so looking at the whole picture of someone, whether it's their socioeconomic status, their as an immigrant, or a citizen. Everyone has to deal with something different, and that's definitely something that I think some folks do get into, who have the luxury of dealing with.
I understand. As I remember, as I formulated the question, I thought, well, there's a certain population that is maybe has the luxury of that dilemma, and then there's the vast population that's actually directly affected by the economics that are the reality of our culture right now. And those are probably vastly more impactful than the theoretical ones. But I thought that was a really interesting passage in the play, because, you have this highly educated, highly intellectual character kind of making herself into something abstract. And I guess that's one of the things you can do in theater, because that Jeannie's performance was really excellent and so embodied and so emotional that we didn't feel like it was some heady conceptual moment. It actually felt very meaningful.
Yeah, I think it also served to meet him on his level where he is. She was in a way saying, here's something you can understand, so that you can understand me a little bit better, which I thought was a nice way of her reaching out to him, and saying, this interests me. What interests you interests me too.
Well, I think that's a really nice note to end on.
Oh, could we ask one more question, I guess, for Judy? I was just curious.
Yeah, please.
This is your second time coming to the play. You were in the reading in January and you come back. What do you find interesting about the play? What brings you back? You're muted.
There we go. First of all, I love the writing, and the writing was wonderful. The acting was wonderful. And I feel like it's very much today, of what's going on today and the feelings that people are feeling, and, just I feel like it's right with the times right now, and it says things, not in a direct way, but in an indirect way, because we can all relate to what the characters are feeling, and it's done in a relationship. And I've had people in my life who have also committed suicide in my family and in very close friends, and so I understand it. It's very powerful. It's a very powerful piece. And you go on this emotional ride with the characters as you're going, and watching it again tonight. It's just like you're on this journey with them, and I think it's a wonderful piece.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for taking part in it. Yeah, I mean, the reason I guess that I did this whole reading at this point in time, with the election coming, I wanted to do my part. I mean, in previous elections, I have gone door to door or worked the phones. I wanted to try to do something different now, since I actually have a piece that maybe speaks to the moment. So that, well, instead of doing that, I'll have a reading instead. So very happy to have Chrissy here, and Adam and everyone else. Question for Chrissy before we leave. I noticed I'm getting not bombarded, but I'm getting several invitations. Voting has become much more social. I've gotten an invite today to go. I'm here in Los Angeles to go to a place called The Forum. They were having free food, free music. LeBron James was going to be there. I got invitations to, I'm going to a friend's comedy reading online for a certain candidate tomorrow night. And I know that Michelle Obama is organizing these voting squads to get people out in groups to go vote, and celebrities are posting online about when they and their buddies go out and vote. Is that having an impact on voting?
Definitely. I think a lot more people are concerned about what's going on, so there's more of an effort. But I think the numbers of people that have registered to vote, the sheer volume of voters now. I mean, there was a pretty big section of people that have not been really voting over the last many years, decades, and all of a sudden, everybody finally feels like they need to start participating, which is why things have just become so much more robust, so many more voters and the turnout. I mean, it's going to be off the charts. I think they said 24 million people had already voted or something. I mean, yeah, and I don't see that going away because more people are participating and running in local and state elections too. It's not just national, it's across the board. So, yeah.
And I guess for Adam, before we leave, could you mention the help numbers that you mentioned earlier one more time? You're muted. You're muted. Sorry.
I did it again. I'm sorry. Right. So the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is at 800-243-8255, but you can also use text and text START to 741-741. And the Trevor Project, which I mentioned, is focused on LGBTQ individuals. The phone number again is 866-488-7386. And they also have a text line. You can text to 678-678. And we're actually very fortunate this past week. We were able to secure 988 as a 3-digit code to get you to the Lifeline. We've been trying for many years to get that, a 3-digit code like 911. So starting in 2022, I think, you'll be able to just dial 988 and you won't have to remember all of these different numbers. And so that's a real amazing change.
Wow. That's really great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Rose, I'll let you take it away.
Oh, well, I just want to thank everybody. I want to thank you, Kenny, for writing the play. Chrissy, thanks for joining us. Yeah, it's been a really great discussion. I appreciate it. I'm so glad I got to be part of it. Thank you, everyone. Don't forget to vote. Be kind to each other. I think those are the basic messages of the evening. Have a wonderful evening, and thanks again.
You too.
Good night. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.